Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're taking a deep dive into something that's been creating quite a buzz lately. Apple and their latest moves in the world of AI.
It's certainly been generating a lot of discussion.
And for good reason. From what we're seeing, Apple's not just dipping their toes into the AI pool, they're diving in head first, especially with these two new developments, Depth Pro and Apple Intelligence.
Definitely. Big changes coming to iOS 18.1, iPadOS 18.1, and macOS Sequoia 15.1. And yeah, those two are a great place to start.
Okay, so Depth Pro. I'll admit, the name makes me think of like Jacques Cousteau exploring the ocean depths or something. Right. But it's about our devices seeing the world in a whole new way, am I right?
You got it. It's all about depth perception. Think about how our brains work, how we use our two eyes to understand how far away things are. Depth Pro wants to do that, but with a single image.
Wait, so it can take a regular 2D picture and figure out the 3D space?
Exactly. It analyzes the image, looks for patterns, and then creates what's called a depth map. Basically, it fills in the missing dimension.
Whoa, that's like teaching a phone to see in 3D. That's wild. But, and maybe this is obvious, but it's not just about creating this 3D model, right? It's about what the device can actually do with that information.
You're exactly right. That depth map is data that can be used for a ton of different things.
Okay, so give me an example. What does Depth Pro actually let us do that we couldn't do before?
Well, imagine taking a photo on your iPhone.
Yeah.
Depth Pro kicks in, analyzes the scene, figures out what's in the foreground and what's in the background, and bam! You get this super precise background blur that rivals what you'd get with a professional camera.
No more blurry elbows in my selfies then. I'm sold, sign me up.
Right.
But it's gotta go beyond just better photos.
Oh, absolutely. This is where it gets really interesting. Think about augmented reality, AR. Where you're placing virtual objects into the real world. Depth Pro can make those experiences so much more believable and immersive.
Yeah.
Because now it can accurately place that virtual object in relation to everything else in the scene, like putting it behind a real object so it looks like it's actually in the room with you.
Exactly, that's what I'm talking about, that level of realism.
Yeah.
But there was one application that really caught my eye, and that was the potential for robotics.
Yeah. That's a huge one. Right now, a lot of robots rely on those LiDAR sensors, for navigation and stuff. Those sensors are expensive and bulky, but with Depth Pro, robots could potentially ditch those sensors and use this new tech instead.
So, cheaper robots, smaller robots, more robots everywhere.
Potentially. And because it understands 3D objects so much better, think about tasks that need really fine movements, like sorting packages in a warehouse, or even, and this is way down the line, surgery.
Whoa.
Things like that could be done with more precision and efficiency.
It's like giving robots a whole new level of spatial awareness.
Yeah, exactly.
The possibilities are pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. Okay, enough about robots for now. We've got another big AI development to unpack, Apple Intelligence. And this one feels huge, like potentially game-changing huge. So from 3D vision, we move on to, well, what is Apple Intelligence exactly? It's more than just Siri with a new name, right?
Oh, much more. Way more. We're talking about a whole different way of interacting with our devices. Something that goes beyond just understanding our words, but actually learns our habits, our preferences, all that.
So like a personal AI that's always a step ahead.
You got it. Anticipating your needs, connecting the dots between all the different parts of your digital life.
Okay, now that is exciting, but let's be real. We've heard these promises before, haven't we? And it hasn't always lived up to the hype. What makes this time different? Why should people be so excited about Apple's take on this?
Well, for starters, Apple's baking this right into the operating system. iOS 18.1, iPadOS 18.1, and macOS Sequoia 15.1. It's not some separate app you have to download or remember to use.
So it's just there.
Yeah.
Always working in the background.
Precisely.
Yep.
And get this. It's not confined to just one device. It's designed to work across your entire Apple ecosystem.
Okay, now that is where things get really interesting. But what does that actually look like in practice? Give me an example.
Sure. Imagine you're jotting down ideas for a project on your iPhone, on the go.
Makes sense.
Later on, you're at your Mac and you're ready to flesh out those ideas in a presentation. Apple Intelligence can actually recognize what you were doing on your phone, understand the context of those notes, and have them pop up right when and where you need them. No more emailing things to yourself or searching through folders.
Seamless integration.
Yeah.
That's been the dream for a while now.
Exactly.
And you knew this was coming, all this talk about AI learning my habits, connecting my data across devices. It makes me think about privacy. That's a big one, especially for Apple users.
Absolutely, and it seems like Apple's really trying to address those concerns head-on. They've made a big deal about building Apple Intelligence with privacy as a core principle.
Okay, so how are they actually doing that?
So a lot of the processing, it's all happening locally. On your device itself, your data isn't being shipped off to some massive data center to be analyzed.
So my phone's learning about me specifically,
Yeah,
not contributing to some giant anonymous profile.
you got it. And for the tasks that do require a little more power, Apple has this thing called private cloud compute. Basically, it combines your on-device processing with their own secure servers.
Okay, so even when it has to leave my device, my data is still within Apple's ecosystem.
Exactly. Not being shared with third parties or anything like that.
That's reassuring to hear. But privacy aside, let's talk about what this thing can actually do. What kind of functionality are we talking about here? Well, one thing the articles mentioned was writing tools. Does that mean Apple Intelligence can finally help me finish that screenplay I've been putting off?
It could definitely give you a hand. Writing tools is being designed to work across all kinds of different apps, like a writing partner. So, say you're writing an email, right? Apple Intelligence could jump in with suggestions to make your phrasing more impactful or, suggest ways to structure it better for clarity.
Oh.
Or maybe you're working in notes or pages. Even a third-party app, Apple Intelligence can help you pull out the key points or even rephrase things to make it flow better.
So it's like having a built-in writing coach that actually gets what you're trying to say.
Exactly.
That's impressive. Pretty useful for someone like me who spends way too much time staring at the screen trying to find the right word.
Mhm.
But what about languages? I mean, not everyone speaks English, right? How is Apple going to handle that?
That's a really important point. At launch, Apple Intelligence will be available in US English.
Okay,
And then pretty quickly after that, they'll be rolling out localized versions for other English-speaking countries.
makes sense.
But adapting to all the different languages and the nuances, that is a huge task.
Yeah.
They have said that support for languages like Chinese, French, Japanese, and Spanish is in the works, but, it's going to take time to get it right.
For sure. I mean, there's so much more to language than just translating word for word. You've got humor, slang, all the cultural stuff. Teaching AI to understand all of that, well, that's a whole other level. So when we zoom out and look at the big picture here, what does this tell us about where Apple's going with all of this?
I think they're sending a pretty clear message about their vision for the future of technology. With Depth Pro, they're changing how our devices see the world. And with Apple Intelligence, they're changing how we interact with those devices. It's not about telling our devices what to do anymore. It's about them anticipating our needs, working more closely with us,
Yeah, it's like they're trying to blur the lines between the physical world and the digital world, making tech more integrated into our lives. Seamless.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And doing it in a way that puts privacy and user control front and center, which is super important as we move into this new era of AI. This isn't about replacing us, not at all. It's about augmenting us, giving us tools that help us do more, create more, connect more easily.
This deep dive has been really eye-opening. It's exciting to think about the possibilities, but it also makes you wonder, what happens when technology can anticipate our needs before we even realize we have them? What will that mean for things like creativity, for solving problems, for what it means to be human, It's a journey we're all on together now. And I, for one, am fascinated to see where it leads. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. It's going to be incredible to see how Apple's approach to AI unfolds.